Tonight, dozens of people gathered for a vigil not far from the shooting site, while others went to the ICE facility in South Portland to protest not only over this incident, but the Trump administration's broader policies and its tactics. That's where we find Alma McCarty tonight. Alma, I just want to warn our viewers, we have heard some explicit language behind you in the last few minutes. Our apologies for that. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, David, I know that this group is very vocal. Obviously, they are understandably upset over what has happened this week. I would say that the size of the crowd is probably double what we saw last night at the same time. Oh, now they seem to be running. Not entirely sure what has happened. It seems that some of the federal agents have maybe exited the building. I could tell you, though, that for the most part, this has not really been the reality on the ground. We have seen things a lot more calm. There's only been one arrest, and for the most part, people have moved out of the way when Portland police have said to, clear the streets. So this seems to be kind of an anomaly this evening.
Alma, I'm just going to jump in with you here, too, because we're watching another live picture. I just want to let our viewers know we have two cameras here on the ground. So as you mentioned, in fact, there are agents who have, it seems, exited the building or have come into the street. I don't know if they're detaining or arresting somebody, and you see a lot of the protesters, I want to call them protesters or demonstrators around, a lot of people with cameras recording video as well, but something is happening in the middle of the crowd. But you did say about maybe 200 people, your estimate of the crowd. Is this fairly typical? I mean, we haven't seen scenes like this, I want to say, since late last summer when protests here were at its peak. But is this how things sort of play out on the ground there, where something happens on the street and then agents come out of the building? Just walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I will say that from the perspective of being here yesterday, things always really pick up when the agents exit the building. When they open those gates and they let cars in and out, there's of course more people who are being vocal about what they are feeling, what they are dealing with. I will say I did not see this kind of action, this kind of activity yesterday. Like you said, this is something that we did see a good bit of earlier this summer. We haven't seen that many folks on the roof. It sounds from the distance that I'm at that they are using some sort of munitions against some of the protesters. I cannot be certain of that, but I will say anytime they open those gates, there is going to be some sort of an escalation in activity.
Yeah, we're looking at a picture of one agent sort of on the roof up there holding what looks like some sort of firearm. I'm not sure what that is there. And the gates, as you mentioned, are open. You hear car horns in the street. You see a lot of people there, some wearing goggles. Someone just threw something into the gate. I'm not sure what that was, but that might provoke some sort of response. You see people wearing hats, helmets, a few costumes here, but this is I don't want to say understandably, but this is significantly more, I would say, confrontational than we have seen in the past. Of course, the atmosphere, not only with the shooting yesterday in Southeast Portland, but the killing of a 37-year-old woman in Minneapolis by an ICE agent as well earlier in the week. And understandably, people are upset and they are back on the streets. And this is the flashpoint, for better or worse. Alma, as we continue to look at these live pictures, I understand you went to a vigil across town tonight too. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, David, as you said, folks are upset, and how they show it, comes in different ways. Earlier this evening, I went to a vigil that was more of a kind of quiet march and then a prayer, and then there were some speeches by elected officials over near the site of the shootings yesterday.
It's a cold Friday night on short notice.
But that didn't stop community from coming together.
While we are heartbroken, we're not afraid.
Heartbroken over back-to-back shootings involving federal agents. The first in Minneapolis, a shock to the system.
And before I had a chance to breathe, they shot a husband and wife just down the street from where I live.
Something that River Scholl says she's dreaded for months, watching other scenes unfolding in other parts of the country.
I could just picture that with my neighbors, and it really upset me. And it's been escalating and escalating. And this isn't okay. This isn't how things should be.
East Portland Indivisible made their way down Southeast Maine, setting up for a vigil near the site of Thursday's shooting.
God have mercy. We gather in grief.
Among the crowd, elected leaders from Portland City Council to Oregon's 3rd Congressional District.
It's incredibly important at these hard times that we come together, that we lean in to our community.
Representative Maxine Dexter says she was just signing on to help introduce articles of impeachment against Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem when she got word of what happened in Southeast Portland.
And literally when the news came out just hours later, like the whole caucus was just, it could continue to be any one of our constituents. I think filing articles of impeachment, it's not likely that we'll get it passed, but in these moments we can't be cynical.
Demands for action extending Friday night to Portland's ICE facility as the crowd continued to grow.
Everyone's so isolated and everything's so scary. You can feel small, but together we're not small.
Well, last night, Portland police tell us that there were 6 arrests at the ICE facility. That includes the very well-known Portland Frog, who was specifically arrested for disorderly conduct in the 2nd degree and interfering with a peace officer. At this time, Portland police say that there has been 1 arrest. However, we are not sure of the charges at this point. David, we will keep you updated on the scene out here.